You know what makes this show so great? I'll give you a moment to think about it.
2,000 years later.
What makes this show so great is the fact that we're still talking about it to this date. Avatar: The Last Airbender isn't just a show, it's a show that truly exemplifies what it means to be a human and make mistakes. To this date, we're still rewatching the animated series like it's our first time watching it. We watch it because it connects with us in a way that words just can't really explain. Avatar: The Last Airbender is the definition of a classical. It captures a variety of beautiful moments, along with moments that will either leave you speechless or emotional. That's the beauty of this show. It starts off lighthearted and fun, but later on ends up showcasing the level of complexity with friends, family, as well as the use of beautiful, compelling storytelling. But what's up guys, it's Aladdin. In today's video, I want to go over with you guys and give you my reasonings and why I believe Avatar: The Last Airbender to be a classic for all ages. This series has showcased so much to me, from the storytelling, to the complexity of the characters, to even the high quality of the show itself. All of these traits are reasons on why I believe this show to be a classic for all ages. So in this video, I'll be going over those 3 traits with you guys: the quality of the show, the storytelling, and lastly, the characters. Now before we get into the video though, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. It definitely helps out the channel grow and lets others like you stay tuned with the latest shows and movies. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you guys can get notified right away when I drop my next video. Now with that out of the way, we can finally discuss the greatness of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Over the years, we've seen shows that have managed to captivate us in ways that will leave us speechless. Some may even say it's due to the overall show and the performance of the actors, and others would perhaps say it was just destined to be great. I, however, believe that it's due to the quality and how it's being executed that deciphers if it's really great or not. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a wonderful example of outstanding quality. Avatar: The Last Airbender has been praised time after time, which is why it's still discussed about today. The show presents its values through a number of countless layers, which can also be showcased through a variety of episodes. Now that's mainly due to the quality of the show itself. The show is on a whole nother level compared to anything else out there. From the animation to the voice acting to the overall story, it's difficult to even try to compare this show to any other animated show. Plus, I don't think you can compare this show to anything else because Avatar is its own unique story with fascinating adventures, a mix of drama, as well as a ton of excitement for all ages. Avatar expresses the use of easy flow and risk, which all plays back to the quality of the show. Now the reason why the show flows so well is due to its easy pacing of episodes and its controllable storytelling. However, we'll get to the storytelling later. The flow of the show is organized so precisely, so when watching it, it tends to flow smoothly, leaving you not to miss out any crucial details when the next episode airs. For example, every episode progresses to the next and keeps it simple to understand what's going on. That's definitely one of the beautiful key aspects of Avatar, the flow it uses. Another huge key factor is the risk that the show takes. Risk is something that most individuals would say to avoid and not to aim for. It's a valid and reasonable statement to say. However, Avatar takes the use of risk by telling a story that's true to them. Thankfully though, when the original creators Bryan Konietzko and Michael DiMartino released the show, there was a huge likening towards it which really paid off for them. A show that revolved around a young 12-year-old boy named Aang. He was the last known survivor of his nation, where eventually he would have to find his way back into the world. Now he wasn't alone since he had the help of his close friends, Katara, Sokka, and Toph. They would all set their journey off to stop the Fire Nation from conquering all the nations, as well as stopping them from instilling fear in others. The show would also cover heavy topics such as war, genocide, colonialism, as well as free choice. But on top of that, the show would also cover themes such as class division and family dysfunction. Now may I remind you, this was aimed for children, but it was created in a way that it was suited to tell a unique but fascinating story for all ages. The way that Konietzko and DiMartino constructed this show was very thought out and precise. Most likely, they knew the risk that they had going on for them telling such a story like this. However, they managed to create it in a way that drew and captivated millions of people to love and respect the originality of it. You see, risk shouldn't be something that should throw creators off. Risk should just be another obstacle for them to overcome, so later on they could end up creating something meaningful, as well as purposeful, which will later lead to greatness. The quality of Avatar: The Last Airbender is something that is truly hard to put into words. However, one thing is for certain, it's definitely a show that will live on forever and still produce emotions for all Avatar fans. A show that could produce so much love and passion for its fans should already indicate to you the level of greatness that it beholds and the potential classic that it's becoming, if it hasn't already become a classic. Now, aside from the quality of the show, the next point that I want to discuss is the storytelling. Avatar: The Last Airbender has a one-of-a-kind story that really captures that essence of joy and adventure. It also goes in depth when the topics start involving family dysfunctions as well as finding one's true purpose. The storytelling in this show isn't just about recovering oneself, it's more about finding how to cope in a world that has caused so much destruction and finding a solution to bringing peace. As humans, we tend to admire stories that inspire us and move us in ways that we can't really describe. However, the impact that it can bring us can be truly significant or emotionally draining. Avatar: The Last Airbender presents such an impact that it's like no other. For example, the story alone has managed to impact the lives of millions of people through the use of emotions, such as jealousy, anger, sadness, loneliness, and more. Those are just the top ones that are coming off the top of my head. However, there are definitely plenty more. Avatar manages to hit you home with the use of Aang's story. For example, it goes in depth by expressing how Aang's the last air nomad and how he's planning to deal with the loneliness and guilt. The story revolves around Aang learning that he's the new Avatar and that he needs to restore peace in the world. Otherwise, if not, Fire Lord Ozai will conquer and destroy all. The story takes a huge hit once you learn that the Fire Nation completely slaughtered all of the air nomads, creating a genocide. Once you learn that, you quickly realize that this isn't your average kids show. Now, that was just one example of how impactful this show can get. There are definitely plenty more examples than just that one. However, another huge impact was with Zuko. There was an incident where he ended up speaking out against the general's plan at a war meeting. Zuko would then be challenged by his father, Fire Lord Ozai, to an Agni Kai. However, Zuko refused to fight his own father. Ozai would end up burning his face, leaving a nasty, disturbing scar right over his left eye, and then would send him into exile, telling him the only way that he could restore his honor is if he captured the Avatar. At this point, we all felt bad for Zuko because at the end of the day, it was a son going up against his father. Our quick instinct was to feel bad for Zuko and the pain that he was going through. All he wanted to do was to impress his father, but unfortunately, his fate just wasn't aligned with his father's. The impact that this scene had was just something else. It wasn't your ordinary fight scene, it was essentially a scene that saw the separation of a father and a son. An impact like that isn't something that can be played off easily. However, Avatar: The Last Airbender did it in such a way that it showcased what kind of world these characters were living in and the consequences that would occur to them no matter who they were. The impact that these characters had on each other weren't just little ups and downs. It was more so towards the side of finding their true version and becoming a better individual. Even though in the contrast, some ended up becoming their worst version of themselves. Avatar: The Last Airbender does a pretty good job at connecting you with the world and the characters. Understanding the two and how they correlate with one another is quite needed to understand the full extent of the characters. For example, let's examine Aang. Aang showcased the themes of loneliness, guilt, and enthusiasm. When he learned about all the air nomads being completely wiped out, he started experiencing loneliness. Now yes, he had his friends with him, however it's quite different when you don't have your own people around you and guiding you. He would also start blaming himself for running away when he heard that Monk Gyatso was being relocated to a different air temple. The guilt started eating him up since he most likely believed that if he were there he could have saved Monk Gyatso before it was too late. But one thing for certain is, Aang's enthusiasm has always been the highlight of him. No matter how complicated or dear the situation might have been, Aang would always find the light through the tunnel with the help of previous avatars as well as his friends. Now the last example that I want to discuss involves Zuko once again. Zuko really does play a huge role in the show. He actually connects with us more than you might think. For instance, Zuko's determination and resentment are character traits in most of us. Konetsuko and DiMartino didn't just provide Zuko with a redemption story, they provided him with more than just that, and that was forgiveness and love. You see, without those two things, we're not able to progress in life and move on. Without Zuko forgiving himself for everything he's done, he wouldn't be able to progress with his life. So for him to finally have the courage to accept his flaws and mistakes and for him to forgive himself was huge. Along with him finally accepting the love of others, IROH was a huge impact in Zuko's life as well as his journey. The love that IROH provided Zuko was like no other, and it really did rub off on Zuko a lot, because in a way, IROH was the father figure that Zuko never had but deserved. We all connect with Zuko when it comes to that level of wanting to be accepted by someone, whether it's a family member, a friend, or whoever. We all want to be accepted. Zuko is a prime example of redemption. Avatar: The Last Airbender is full of magnificent, complex characters that will either have you laughing out tears or crying. It has such a diverse set of characters, from individuals like Aang, Zuko, Toph, Iroh, Azula, and even the Cabbage Merchant. All these characters have a purpose in the show, and without them, this show wouldn't be what it is today. So in this final point, I just want to discuss how important some of these characters really are and how they ended up becoming classics in animation. Identity in a character is huge. It's what makes them who they are and sets them different from others. Avatar is full of individuals that have stories that need to be told. So in this final section, we'll take a quick look at some of the characters and see how their identity plays a crucial role in the show. The first one up is IROH. IROH is perhaps one of the most beloved characters in the show. His whole demeanor is said to be cool and relaxed. He's definitely not a character who's aggressive or arrogant, but more as someone who's friendly and modest. IROH possesses the qualities of compassion and love, and you even see that throughout the show a variety of times. For instance, he's always been a father figure towards Zuko and has always looked at him like a second son. He would always tend to Zuko's care and would attempt to guide him down the right path. Of course, there were times where Zuko might have crossed the line or even betrayed IROH. However, with IROH's big heart and optimistic mind, he always knew that deep down Zuko would find his way and make the right choice. We even saw this in Book 3 where Zuko would ask him how he could forgive him so easily for everything he's done. And IROH simply replied with, "I was never angry with you. I was sad because I was afraid you lost your way." You see, with IROH, he's always been that father figure for Zuko and has always hoped the best for his nephew. One huge takeaway from IROH's character is his devotion for compassion. IROH's character alone is a classic. Now the second character that I want to examine is Azula. Azula is perhaps one of the most compelling and thought out provoking characters on the show. She's an individual who likes to stir drama. One main aspect about her is her drive to impress her father and to showcase her abilities. It's one reason why Ozai values her so much. Azula is also quite the individual. She's confident in whatever she does as well as fearless. That's one of the main striking features about her is her resilient drive to be the best. Her identity in the show is quite mysterious as well, just because you don't quite know her next move or what she has up her sleeve. However, I do have to say, Azula was also overwhelmed. For example, in the final episode of Book 3, she ended up fighting against Katara and lost. That's when we finally saw her break down for the first time and lose it. Seeing Azula like this was the first time we saw her vulnerable and miserable. It was a side of hers that we weren't used to. It also showcased that all she wanted was the same thing as Zuko, which was acceptance and love. Remember, at the end of the day, Azula was only 14 years old. She was still a kid. All she wanted was to be accepted by her father and to mean something. Azula will always be one of my favorite antagonists, but she will always have a place in my heart because I do understand why she did certain things and acted certain ways. It was all due to her wanting to be accepted by someone. Now the final character, or characters should I say, will be Katara and Toph. I want to talk about these two together since both of them share a number of qualities that I feel like correspond with one another. For example, both of them are ambitious, courageous, and devoted. They both face their problems head on and don't take no for an answer. Something that I really admire about this show is the fact that all the female characters are truly independent and capable of taking out anyone. I think that's amazing, to be honest. Female characters deserve to shine just like the male characters, but I won't get into that too much just because that could be a whole separate video. But anyways, let's talk about Katara for a moment. Katara has always been seen as the responsible one in the group. Whether her taking care of her brother or Aang, she's always been the lookout for everyone and has always been the reasonable one. However, in season 3 of episode 16, Zuko had offered to help her find her mother's killer. Zuko ended up finding the man responsible for her mother's death, and the two would end up setting their journey to find him. Now once Katara was face to face with her mother's killer, a former captain, now retired Yan Ra, Katara was nearly close to ending his life right before she told herself that she couldn't do it. She would later tell Aang, "I didn't forgive him, I'll never forgive him." Now what changed? Katara was face to face with her mother's killer, yet she decided not to seek revenge. Now why is that? Maybe she knew that deep down taking his life would not bring her mother back. Or maybe she knew that she could be the bigger person in this, and instead of taking his life, let him live so he can have that guilt inside him for the rest of his life. You see, the amount of strength that she had at that moment just went to show that her character was capable of being great. She could have easily taken him out, but decided that she didn't want that type of darkness inside her. I think what's so amazing about Katara is her motivation to be better, her will of letting the past go and finding a way to progress to the future. That's Katara's power, her ability to see the bigger picture and not to dwell on the past. But besides Katara, let's talk about Toph now. Toph has also been a huge key player in the show. She's simply a badass. She does whatever she wants and allows no one to get in her way. Her whole persona is just pure real. She's the type of individual that you bring if you want to hurt someone's feelings. She's bold, outspoken, and daring, but one example that I want to discuss is Toph learning how to metal bend. The reason I want to talk about this real quick is because this is what makes Toph, that drive, that hungry drive to become the best, and if not the best, the greatest. In Season 2, Episode 19, this is where we finally saw Toph do the unthinkable. She learned how to metal bend. At the time, metal bending was known to be an impossible task and that no one could possibly do it. However, Toph broke that mindset and was the first to do it. The reason I mentioned this example is because there was this idea that metal bending was just a fairy tale and that it wasn't possible of doing. That type of mindset started to pass around, making others believe that as well. Now, while Toph was trapped in a metal box, she could have easily given up and said, "This is the end for me, I have to give up." However, she didn't have that mindset because she knew what she was capable of and knew deep down that she was the best to ever do it. Whether it being earthbending or not, she knew exactly that she had the skills to overcome any obstacles, and that's what you got in that scene, the discovery of metal bending. I think Toph can be an inspiration to everyone. Her will of becoming the best version of herself and to always strive to be better is something that I feel like we should all look into for ourselves. This is why I value and appreciate Toph so much. She has that fighting spirit to never giving up and to always becoming better. Avatar: The Last Airbender isn't just a show, it's far more greater than that. It's a show that teaches you the value of life and making mistakes. It's about learning how to forgive and move on, as well as taking chances and finding new things about yourself. This show has taught me so many valuable lessons growing up, which is why I still rewatch it time to time. Avatar: The Last Airbender is truly a classic for all ages. The amount of love that this show gets is just unmatched to anything out there. I will forever cherish this show for its richness in storytelling and character building. A show like this deserves all the praise it can get for becoming such a classic in our time. But what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with all my points in this video? If so, let me know in the comments section what you guys thought. Also, let me know what your favorite part of the video was. I'm quite curious to know. If you guys enjoyed this type of content, please let me know so I can make more content like this for you guys. But finally, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and if you haven't already, hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't by now. Also, hit that notification bell so you guys can get notified right away when I drop my next video. If you don't mind, share the video if you thought it was good and want others to see it. Thank you all once more, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.